I scan the media on a daily basis, and what I see on a daily basis is a constant drumbeat of sniping, whining, and open hostility to our president. This is not helpful. This is not constructive. We are in an unprecedented national crisis. It should be all hands on deck, pulling together in a national effort to beat back this challenge. All too often, the attacks are personal. That is the last thing we need. The New York Times carried an opinion piece, and the title was, "The virus has taught us more about Trump than we wanted to know." Oh dear, how snide can you get? How sarcastic? You can tell the writers had contempt, personal contempt for the president. It was a personal attack. On MSNBC, an anchor declared that running President Trump's daily briefings was bad for the country and dangerous, as if Mr. Trump tries to mislead, when in fact he is leading, and polls show a large majority approves of that leadership. CNN didn't even carry Mr. Trump's opening statement, where he outlined just how bad things are. A news network does not show the president telling how it is at a time of national crisis. That is ridiculous. And Chuck Todd on NBC actually asked Joe Biden if the president has blood on his hands. This, of course, follows Speaker Pelosi suggesting that the president's policies had cost lives. There's nothing wrong with making clear policy shortcomings. Say it. Nothing wrong with that. It's constructive criticism. But there is everything wrong with sarcastic, demeaning, and personal insults. It seems to me that the left and their media supporters can't get past the personal dislike of Donald J. Trump. The sting of Hillary's loss never went away, and now, at a time of grave national crisis, the contempt spills over and infects the national discussion. We talk about the economy making a comeback someday. Will the establishment media get its reputation back? Very doubtful. They can't keep their contempt in a box. They detest the president. It shows, and it's not helpful. Just listen to this.
I think that regular information in times of crisis from the government on sort of the science and facts and policy are essential, but I personally can't help but feel these daily sessions are bad for the country, even dangerous from a public health perspective. It's obviously above my pay grade. I don't make the call that we take them or not, but it seems crazy to me that everyone's still taking them when you got the My Pillow guy getting up there talking about reading the Bible.
Oh dear. Let's bring in Joe Concha. He is the media reporter for The Hill. Joe, look, I just slammed the media there. Do you think I went too far?
No, Stuart, I think that you're in line with the American public. If we look at polling, right, in Gallup, 60% approve of the president's handling of this crisis. And that's not a partisan thing. That includes 60% of independents, nearly 3 in 10 Democrats, which is a high number for any president when you're talking about the opposition party. In another poll, this one from Monmouth, just to give you some perspective, okay, president 60% approval. The media only gets 45% approval of the way that they're covering this crisis. And given the stakes, and given how many people are tuning in because they're at home, to be underwater, if you're the media, is disgraceful. And just to put this in perspective again, 72% believe their governors are doing a good job, 65% believe health agencies are doing a good job, and there you have the media 20, 30 points lower. So the argument appears to be, from the Chris Hayeses of the world on MSNBCs or the Don Lemons on CNN, is don't air these briefings. Listen to us instead. Trust us. Don't trust Dr. Fauci. Don't trust Dr. Birx. Don't trust the vice president leading this coronavirus task force, the Surgeon General Adams, or the president of the United States, who gave some very grim expectations yesterday. To see CNN not air the beginning of that briefing when the president of the United States was on, when they scream about transparency, when they aired podiums, empty podiums of the president in 2016 saying, waiting for President Trump to speak, and aired almost every rally he had during that time because it was good for ratings, is hypocritical, and quite frankly, it's disgusting.
I must confess that I expected things to change. When I realized the scope and extent and the severity of the virus crisis, I thought that we might all come together, that some of the harsh personal criticism of the president might be at least a little muted. Obviously, I'm very disappointed because that's not happened. But my question to you is, Joe, Do you think between now and the election there will be any change on the part of the New York Times, the Washington Post, MSNBC and CNN? Do you think they might just see the light and might just do their job of trying to bring us together? What do you think?
No, Stuart. The light that they'll see is to take out a president, an opportunity now, because the economy obviously is going to go south, particularly in the second quarter, could recover, obviously, if we come out of this. But they see this as an opportunity. And look, Bob Woodward, who I still think is one of the few great journalists that are out there, he called it smugness. He says, you see the condescension and the smugness from our media in terms of the way they covered this president, calling it the Trump virus, for instance. And again, what we need is education. We need people to be informed, and we need all of the politicization of this taken out of this, because people are at home right now and they just want to know, what do I do? What happens next? When do we come out of this? And I think that's the most important thing right now. But yeah, you think there's going to be a change? It's only going to get worse, Stuart. Believe me.
I just could not believe that a news network, CNN, would not carry the president's all-important briefing, at least the beginning of it yesterday, that all-important statement. I think the president looked real good. I think he laid it out in somber terms. This is how bad it is. I actually thought that his speech was almost Churchillian. You're too young to remember it, but I remember the aftermath. Back in 1940, when Britain stood alone against the Nazis, he was saying, I've got nothing to offer but blood, sweat and tears. I was reminded of that with the president yesterday. How about you?
I saw the movie, and Gary Oldman was great. I know there were several movies obviously made about Churchill, but I understand your point completely. Yeah, it wasn't only the beginning, by the way, that CNN cut out. They also cut out at the end as well for over 10 minutes. And that was during a time when their own White House chief correspondent, Jim Acosta, was asking the president questions. The president was answering, and a back and forth, including obviously questions to Dr. Fauci and Dr. Birx as well. And the argument was like, well, okay, let's put on a panel to analyze what the president's saying right now, instead of hearing from him on live television or hearing from a Dr. Fauci on television. And it's just something that I hope that today they learn their lesson, because they're getting a lot of blowback on this one, as they should. Carry these briefings in full. Let the American people get